So when exactly do people start getting old? Now, of course, every year that you're alive, you're getting older. But when exactly do you start getting old? It depends. Now, there's a study that I read, an article about a study that said there's two ages in your life when you start getting older. At 44 and at 60. I crossed one of those. I haven't crossed the other one yet. I'm a young Gen Xer, still in my 40s. Clock is ticking. But I do know at 44, I noticed something change. So like I said, I haven't gotten to 60 yet. But there's something deeper than that. When do you really, really start getting old? You really, really start getting old when your perspective is no longer fluid. When you stay locked into what was. When you stay locked into that perspective, you're old. Young people are able to see the world and imagine what could be. You used to be able to do that. But somewhere along the line, as you got older, you got comfortable in what you knew and what you know. And so increasingly, as more stuff comes at you, more new things present themselves, you can't handle it. You don't have the bandwidth. You don't have the patience. That's why a lot of times people, as they get older, especially certain men, they get grumpier. Because I'm being bombarded with new things that I don't or I can't digest. I don't want to deal with this. I just want to stick with what I know. That's when you get old. That is when you become old. You don't want to receive new information. You just want to live in the world of what you knew. But time keeps moving. So if you just stay in the world of what you knew, bit by bit, you get left behind. And you get angry and bitter about that. But the world don't give a shit. The world keeps moving. Young people on the other end of the spectrum, they're just out here doing whatever because they think anything is possible. And bless their heart, used to be one of them, many things are possible. Not anything is possible, but many things are possible. And that's why you got to go out there and live your life and be imaginative. But that's part of the key words, imaginative. I made a video, another video about this. Go check out some of the videos in my playlist where I talk about how the key to keeping a young mind is to have an imaginative mind. An imaginative mind is constantly moving pieces, rearranging pieces of the puzzle to see what could be. Older people, like I say, maybe you just don't have the mental bandwidth anymore. You don't have the patience. I don't want to move things around and see what could be. What is? That's what I know. What is what was. And bit by bit, you're going to get left behind. But you get old to me, it's not necessarily based upon your physical capabilities. Some people, unfortunately, were never born with the physical capabilities that most of us take for granted. It's not so much about age. Like I say, every year that you're here, still in this avatar experience of a life, you're getting older. But does that mean you're old? It's not about your physical capabilities. It's not about your actual numerical age. It is about your perspective. Once your perspective becomes static, rigid, you only want to live in the world of what you know and what you knew, you're old. Point blank. So that's why you can see an older person out at the club, an older person at the party, an older person at work, one of your co-workers, and their vibe, their energy, not old. You can hang with that person. You can kick it with that person. You can tell jokes and laugh with that person. You can smoke one with that person. I'll smoke one on that. Because they have a young spirit. They still fluid in their mind and their perspective and their imagination. You can't do that with grandpa. And you can't do that with grandma, great-grandma. And it's not because they're grand. It's not because they're great. It's because their perspective. There's plenty of people in the 60s, 70s, and 80s you can light one up with. You can get a sip on something, and they'll tell you their stories, and they'll, spit that wisdom, spit that truth, spit that experience, spit that perspective. When you get older, your perspective, it almost like it starts to freeze like Han Solo. Gen X reference, people. But But when you're young-minded, your perspective, your imagination is fluid. It can move with the times. And you know these people. I'm telling you, like I'm a so-called Sigma male, so I really, really connect with authenticity, a nice, good, authentic vibe. And you come across some older people. Hopefully I'll develop into one of those older people where I like his vibe, man. That's a cool older dude. That's a cool old, you know what I'm saying? Grandma over there, she way sweeter than you. Grandma, I'd rather hang out with grandma than hang out with you. So, but that's because grandma, her perspective is still moving. The wheels are still moving. And I don't mean cognitively. You could have someone who is showing various signs of aging, Alzheimer's, you know, like I say, just diminished capabilities, all of that. That ain't what makes them old. Because you can still have those challenges, still have those difficulties, and we have those difficulties, and we all have our challenges and difficulties. Go check out the playlist. I got a video about how we all need some empathy because we all going through something. But just because you have diminished capabilities, just because maybe, you know, you have got a forgetful memory and you ask the same question every 10 minutes, that's not what makes you old. What makes you old is when you are now locked into the world that you knew. That's what makes you old. So if you, as you get older, if you're fortunate enough to be out here, like I say, young Gen Xer, baby, in my last year in my 40s, but if you can still flow with the water, you know what I'm saying? Think about it, even like water. Water keeps flowing, water keeps moving. You know what I'm saying? Things happen. Water gets stale and it doesn't flow. You get stagnation, the water gets dirty, bacteria continues to grow. You get what I'm saying? It's really kind of similar. So I think various things you could do to prevent from getting old, because you're going to get older, but you don't have to get old. You feel what I'm saying? So I think one of the ways that you can prevent yourself from getting old, like I say, it goes back to perspective and imagination. If you can continue to have an imagination, when we were younger, when we were kids and we were playing in the mud and playing in the dirt and racing and climbing trees and all type of stuff that you don't do when you hit your 30s, 40s, and 50s, you start actually calculating the risk. You become like what do they call that person? A risk assessor? Can't think of the name right now. But you start assessing risk. And it's like when you're young, you just do it. Sometimes it ends up badly, but you do it. You live in it. It's fluid because anything could be. And when you get older, you start losing that imagination. You start losing that spunk, and now you just want to focus on what you know. So as you get older, if you can kind of test yourself, prod yourself, do different little things to take the situation that you see and just interject a certain amount of playful uncertainty. Playful uncertainty. And of course, the first time or two that you try it, it's not going to be as good, because anytime we try something, the first time or two we try it, it's not going to be as good. But you keep trying, you get better at it. So I can't necessarily give you something specific. It depends on your life, your lifestyle. But just do certain things like that. Like, and when you do that, the younger people will look at you like, what did you just do? What did you just say? Because it doesn't fit with their concept of you. It doesn't fit with what they perceive of as an older person, an older mind. But you can get older, but your mind doesn't have to get old. You get old not at 44 and at 60. You get old when your mind gets old. So, like I said, I've crossed one of them, and when I crossed it, I did feel like, damn, like, did I just age 7 years or something? What happened? Y'all don't see too much gray hairs on me because I don't keep too many gray hairs on me. Not that I'm afraid of them, I just usually like to be clean shaven. But you see some of my other videos with my beard, you know, it's here for sure, it's here. But so what? Because like I say, if you keep that fluid mindset, that fluid perspective, you can almost adapt to any situation and be good. You know, so you can be around almost any group, any party, any activity, and get in where you fit in. Quote too short. So this your boy, just dropping another quick video on you. Like I said, I read this article about the study that said at 44 and at 60, is when your body significantly jumps in aging. Something just happens and your body like presses the gas pedal on getting older. Well, it is what it is. If you're fortunate enough to be around, you can get older. But you don't have to get old